How to find the price of stocks who have not paid the dividend yet? So assume that we have a company called Alamo Inc., relatively young, has been successful, but hasn't yet to pay a dividend. And an analyst runs an estimation that in 3 years the company will pay a dividend of $1.50 per share. And also, she believes the dividend will grow in the following 2 years by 7.8%. And after that, she thinks Alamo's dividend will continue to grow at a constant rate of 342% per year forever. So, assuming the required rate of return for Alamo is 11.4, what would be the horizon or terminal value? And that would be the horizon value, just a reminder, is the value of the company at the end of the non-constant growth, after growth becomes constant. So the first thing I would do, and I did already, was to create a timeline. And here I put the different periods and the value of the dividends. So we have in D3, dividends in year 3 will be $1.50 per share. At the end of year 4, dividends will be 7.8% more than 150, and the same for dividend 5. After that, then dividends will grow at a constant rate. So the first thing to do is to find D3, D4, and then we should do also D6, which is the dividend when growth becomes constant, by using the formula for the constant growth. So first, to find D4, we have that D4 is D3, which is $1.50 per share, times 1 plus the rate of growth. In this case, is 7.8%. And this is raised to the first. So we find that D4 is $1.61. I just move it up, but the D4 we found it to be 162. Then what's D5? D5 would be the D4, prior year dividends, times 1 plus G. Which G should I use? G44 was 7.8% to the first, so we just leave it blank, and we found D4. What D5? And then what's D6? So D6, we have the formula here again. So D6 would be the prior year dividends times 1 plus G. Which G do we use now? We have to use now the 342 because this one becomes constant. I have it as a number. We just found the value of dividends after the rate of growth becomes constant. So from this point onwards, the rate of growth will be constant. With this, we can find the horizon value, which will be the D6, which is the one we just found, divided by the discount rate. In our case, we're using 11.4%, so 11.4% minus the rate of growth when growth becomes constant, so that would be the 3.42%. And we find that the horizon value, or the value of the company once growth becomes constant, is 22.59. And that was the first part of the question. Then we need to find what's the current intrinsic value. So in this case, we need to find the present value of these future dividends. So remember, we have to use D3, D4, D5, because these are part of the value of the company. We have to find the present value of these dividends, and also we have to find the present value of the horizon value, or the value of the company once growth becomes constant. So I do a small table here. We know that we don't collect any dividends in the first 2 years. Then we receive the $1.50, another one, 162, and finally here we receive the 174 D5, but also we collect, so that's why I'm adding them, because they are both in time 5, so we can add them, the horizon value in year 5. With this, when we have all the cash flows here, we need to estimate what's the present value of this uneven set of cash flows. So we do net present value, and the rate, the discount rate that we're going to use is 11.4% that we just found, and we select all the, remember, with net present value we begin by cash flow 1, we don't start in cash flow 0. And then if any, we have to add cash flow zero. In this case, it doesn't make a difference, but if you want to keep the formula handy for future work and it may have some dividends time today or something, you can use it. So based on this, that's a net present value of our uneven set of cash flows. And in this case, this would be the current intrinsic value for this company. The last question is, what is the company's current dividend yield and capital gains yield? So we know that the sum of the dividend yield plus the capital gains yield will give us the total yield of the company. So I have it here in this formula here. We also know that the current yield is just dividends next year over the current stock price. In our case, the current yield, or CY, would be, what was dividends next year? Would be DV1 divided by the intrinsic value or the stock price or the price today. This is also another name for the price today or the price at time zero. So if you have to choose between what's the dividend next year divided by the intrinsic value today, we know the dividends next year is zero, so any number divided by zero, the price is 1632, so the dividend yield is zero. And the capital gains yield is usually easier to find it by differencing, by finding by subtracting from total yield 11.4, which is 11.4 minus 0, in this case 11.4% minus 0, because that's the dividend yield, we get the capital gains yield of 11.4%. So when the question asks what's the income or what is the return that an investor expects to make next year, all of it comes from the expected changes in prices or capital gains yield. Since the company doesn't pay any dividends in years 1 until the third year, is not expected to pay any